So, most of us reach a point in our lives where we realise that we need to basically get a job to support ourselves. And in a sense, a lot of this is quite bad. A lot of people are very critical about the 9 to 5 and stuff like that. But to be fair, I do think there's actually quite a lot that's good about it. I think if you can to generate enough income that you're financially independent, that's pretty impressive. That's a good thing, and people shouldn't be ashamed about that. It's kind of silly that the idea of moving back home with your parents to start some YouTube business is being seen as really applauded, but working hard to support yourself is kind of not. That kind of seems a bit silly, and I get there are reasons why that is and whatever, which is part of this video, but my point is that the likelihood is you'll probably find yourself in a position in life at some point, if you're not already in it, where you have to have a 9 to 5 in order to support yourself. And there's actually a lot of great things about it, because it means that you're financially independent and you have a amount of stability in your life. A lot of people see stability as kind of a bad thing, it's kind of predictable, but it's actually really good to have a stable ground. And the reason for that is it allows you to build something on that. It's very hard to create anything of high worth in life without some kind of stability, some kind of financial stability to spring off of. But there's still a lot of bad things about working 9 to 5. And the biggest one is you don't really have that much freedom. During the working week, Monday to Friday, you don't really have any freedom to speak of. Obviously you can still do stuff on the side. You can get up early before work and do some of your own stuff that you have if you want to do that. There are ways you can do it, but you're kind of pinned down to where you live. You have to be at that desk at 9 o'clock every day, and you're not allowed to leave. And if you don't turn up to work, you get fired. Right? It's pretty rough, and that's how the world works. I'm not here to complain, but the problem, the thing is that we get in a situation basically with the 9 to 5. The problem sort of comes in because there's this lack of freedom, and you end up with a kind of disconnect between what you're doing for money and what you really want to do. Most people have some kind of creative vision for the world, in some sense, whether that's a business or it's a YouTube channel, or they want to write an album or write a book or something like that. People have some kind of creative idea in mind that they want to work on. I'm using the term creative quite broadly, but most people have some kind of side hustle, something in there that they want to work on, and they should work on, right? It's good I think it's kind of our mission, once we get that stability, that job, that independence, to work on realising our creative goals and make them happen. I think that's really what we should do. But obviously there's a big disconnect, because for the whole week you're basically tied down to the office job. You can't really do very much. And so the only time you really have to really make those big leaps in your life, in your creative vision, whatever it is at the weekend, right? I've done another video on this channel where I talk more about how to focus at the weekend, how to work out what you need to get done, how to not waste time on the weekend, which I recommend you go and watch. But this video here is just going to be more about how to really make the most of the time that you have in the weekend, because it's a really crucial thing. And for a lot of people it might not be necessary. For example, if your dream is just to run an online business, become a dropshipper or something like that, you don't really need, it doesn't really matter. You don't really need location freedom or anything like that. But I think there are a lot of things that we we need to do. A lot of our creative projects require, like, it's quite hard to fit them into the weekends, even though you've still got those 2 days to do it in. But what I'm gonna do in this video is just talk about how I've managed to do this, because the main creative projects that I have at the moment that I'm working on is YouTube. So I have this channel, obviously, but I have another channel where I make travel vlog videos, and that requires making those videos is much more sort of time intensive and requires a lot more organisation, and it's quite hard to do these travel vlogs in the weekends, you know. But I've managed to fit them in. I've managed to do trips away during the weekend and made it back in time for work on Monday, and it's worked pretty well. And I'm just going to talk about how I've really managed to make that happen. So I've done 3 videos on this travel vlog channel since I've taken up this new job. I work as like a tax accountant in Oxford. And basically I thought, like, I wrote down a list of a bunch of videos that I wanted to make, just sort of hyper ideally, and I identified the ones that were most easy for me to make. So I had a few that were in the UK that I thought I could just do them, they're quite easy. And so there were 2 main ones. The first one I did was in Milton Keynes, which is this kind of really weird town that was just built in like the 1960s, the 1970s. And it's quite nearby to Oxford, actually. So one day I just thought, like, why don't I go and do a vlog there? So I just after work one evening, I was gonna go on a date with a girl, but then unfortunately she had to cancel because she was ill or something like that. And so just that afternoon, I was like, well, I've got this plan to go and film Milton Keynes at some point. Why don't I just do it today? And like later that evening, I just got a train to Milton Keynes. I was up on the Friday, and then the Saturday I was, filmed it during the day on the Saturday. Came back down on the sun at the end of the Saturday. So that was quite easy, right? Going to Milton Keynes, it was only like a 1 hour train. But the second one I did was in Cornwall. Cornwall just interested me because, it's kind of quite a mysterious county. It's a sort of historically Celtic nation. It's got its own Celtic language and stuff like that. And I was just really interested to visit, and it is still quite close to Oxford, so it's about a 4-5 hour drive away. But it is still a bit of a trek, but it was like the nearest thing that I had a genuine, authentic desire to go and make a video in. So I decided to go and do it anyway, and I was thinking, like, how do I do this? And part of me thought I should take some time off to film this video in Cornwall. But I was reluctant to, because there are other places that I was really going to need annual leave if I wanted to film, like, in the future. I didn't want to use all my annual leave at some point. I wanted to save it, come back to it a bit later maybe. So I decided, like, let's see if I can do the whole of Cornwall, film all the content I need for this travel vlog in one weekend. Let's see if I can make it happen. And this required I had to sort of break down the thought process of travel vlogs, basically, and like the weekend, in order to fit this in. Because at the face of it, driving all the way down to Cornwall, filming all the content I wanted in Cornwall, and then going right the way back up again in time for Monday morning, it seemed kind of impossible if you just took the weekend at face value. Because at face value, the weekend is like Saturday and Sunday, right? So imagine if I set off to Cornwall on Saturday at, like, let's be optimistic, 9 o'clock. I wouldn't make it until like the afternoon, and then I'd have an afternoon in Cornwall, and then on the Sunday I'd have a morning, and then probably have to head up by the evening, right? So in a sense, it's like I don't have very much time. I wouldn't have very much time on the weekend. But I thought, like, actually, I don't have the weekend is not Monday to Friday. It's not the weekend is not Saturday to Sunday. The weekend is 5 p.m. on a Friday to 9 o'clock on a Monday, or in my case, 8:30 on a Monday. That is the time frame, and that was a real sort of shift in thinking for me, because it really added it. When you realise that it's not days, it's more hours we're talking about, and if you add on like whatever 5 o'clock to midnight, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 7, and then from midnight to 9 o'clock, that's like another like 15 to 20 hours of your weekend if you factor in the end of the Friday and the morning before the start of work, right? So that was a bit of a mind shift for me, and so I just decided if I wiggle things around a bit, I can have it so that I arrive in Cornwall by Saturday morning, and then I've got literally a weekend just to explore, and at the end on the Sunday evening I can just tank the drive back to Oxford and then drop the car first thing in the morning and then get to work on Monday. So anyway, that's what I decided to do, and I sort of really tried to go into the microscopic details, because it's those few hours on a Friday or those few hours in the morning where you can really do some magic, and you can really like maximize your weekend. So anyway, what I decided to do was come in a bit earlier on the Friday of that weekend. So we have it where you can kind of choose your hours a bit. So it's either 8:30 start or 8 o'clock start for my job. And if you start at 8 o'clock, obviously you're there half an hour earlier, so you can leave half an hour earlier. So if I come in at 8, I can leave by 4:30. And that's brilliant. It's like that little half an hour on a Friday evening that's a game changer. It's like big. It's just that little bit more time that I can use to play with. So anyway, that's what I did. I woke up early that morning, got into the office for 8 o'clock, worked a full day, finished at 4:30. Then I pre-booked this, but I went to this sort of car hire place, which is literally like a 5-minute walk from where I live, so it was really convenient. And just got a car by like 5:30 tops. I was sorted, like I was finished. I was ready to go. And that evening, I just drove basically all the way to Cornwall. I didn't get across the border. I went to a nearby town, which is literally on the border, like the river running through it is the traditional border between Devon and Cornwall. But I went to this town, I went to Plymouth, right? And got a hotel there for the night, and then on Saturday morning, it's like bam, I'm there. I'm literally in Cornwall, like 5-minute drive, and I'm there. And I've literally got the entire weekend ahead of me just to do what I want to do. And it just really changed it from what it would have been otherwise if I had sort of set off on Saturday and got to Cornwall in the afternoon. Like it became a completely different thing, and I was able to get so much more done. I literally got I got about 10 hours worth, like at least 7 hours worth of video footage, just raw video footage from when I was there, and I edited that into about 4 or 5 videos. So like it was really good, like massive amount of quality. Like, I just filmed so much stuff that I just wouldn't have been able to do if I'd not just used every second I had to set up the weekend properly. So anyway, I just filmed all the content, stopped off at this random town in Cornwall called Camborne for the evening, and then the weekends on the Sunday drove all the way to literally at the end of Cornwall. If you don't know, for the Americans watching, Cornwall is kind of this sort of peninsula, and I drove just right down to the end to this little town called St Just. Didn't stop off at Land's End, which I should have done, but anyway, made it to St Just, and then drove all the way back, and by about 5 o'clock I was basically right back where I started. Like, I was at the end of Cornwall, near the border with Devon, and then I just had I had a coffee at a cafe, and just thought I'm gonna tank it this evening, and just drove all the way back home. Got back at about 11:30, 12, and then next morning woke up. I had to wake up about 6 o'clock, maybe a bit earlier, to drop off the car, and then just cycled into work quite briskly, and made it back for 8:30. And yeah, it was quite amazing, like, having been able to do that much stuff in a weekend. And the only reason I was able to do it is because I thought of the week. I didn't have this notion of the weekend as just 2 days. I had it more as like a bunch of hours, you know. And like I said earlier, you know, I'm not saying that everyone in this video is going to go off and make a travel vlog video in Cornwall. You know, I'm not saying you're gonna apply exactly what I'm saying in this video, but what I hope you can take away is just the mindset I had towards the weekend. You know, it's not. I just see it as 3 sleeps. You've got 3 sleeps until you have to be back at work. You've got 3 sleeps and then a few hours from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock to do what you want, right? And it's when you start thinking of it like that, the weekend, it stops becoming like 2 days off, and it starts becoming like a holiday, like a small sabbatical that you have every week. So yeah, I really recommend just starting to think of it like that. Yeah, I mean, another thing that I'm going to do at some point is one of the things that I really want to do is just have like a weekend of just complete focus and just detachment from electronics. Just go to a hotel somewhere, stay a few nights there, and just see what comes to my mind. You know, see how I feel. And if I was going to get around to doing that, which I will at some point, I would go up on the Friday, you know what I mean? I would finish work and then go there. So then I have Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. You know, it just changes it a little bit more. It just becomes a slightly different thing. So yeah, make every weekend a bank holiday weekend, basically, is my way of looking at it. So yeah, I hope there's something you can apply in my mentality to your own circumstance. You know, whether you're a content creator where you have certain like location needs, you need to be in a certain place at a certain time. You know, hopefully I'll show you that, you know, it's not easy, but you can wiggle things around a bit, you can make it happen. And yeah, one thing I would say lastly actually is I am going to do this exact same thing in a couple of weeks' time when I go to Wales. So I'm just going to apply the exact same stuff that I've applied for Cornwall, but instead to Wales. I'm going to drive up from Oxford to Wales, and we're going to see how that goes. So yeah, I'll maybe do another video when I've done that, and you know, maybe let you guys know if I've done anything differently, any lessons I've learned from that. But yeah, anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, guys, as always. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. If you're interested in coaching and stuff like that, get involved. I'm doing some one-on-one sessions at the moment, so click the top link in the description. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you soon.